This next project is called Minesweeper. This is a game you may have played before, though a lot of people have played it and have no idea what it actually meant. There's a 20 by 20 grid of buttons, and hidden inside of this grid, there are 30 mines that are randomly distributed. If you click on a particular mine, you lose, and you show all the squares. Otherwise, what you do is you show the number of mines that are neighboring the square you just clicked on. So the number of mines that your neighbors of this particular square are. So we're going to create a two-dimensional grid of J buttons and a reset button at the top. The idea behind it is that we're going to have a two-dimensional array that's going to keep track of where mines are and the counts of our neighbors. I'm going to place the 30 mines randomly. If somebody clicks on a square, you reveal the number of neighbors that contain mines. And if a mine is clicked, you reveal all squares. If you manage to go through and click all of the squares that were not mines, that means you win. And you have a J dialog pop-up that shows that. There's a special thing. If you click on a 0 square, you reveal all the 0 squares attached to this one, and then for each of those, you reveal all the 0 squares attached to that one. And basically, zeros clear every other 0 that's attached to it. And we're going to use something called recursion to deal with that. And obviously, comment your code. So let's create a new Java project. Minesweeper. New class. Should have added the public static void main. Let's do that now. String array args. And all I'm going to do is create a new Minesweeper. All right, so Minesweeper is going to have a J-frame. It's going to have a J button, which will be my reset. And it's going to have a two-dimensional array of J buttons. So let's go ahead and import these two. So J button array, so for 2 dimensions. And I happen to know that there's going to be 20 because I said so. So I'm going to put those in. If for whatever reason you wanted to create a more variable thing, what you could do is make these variables that you change as you go. So maybe in the constructor you actually create this button array. Now the buttons are just going to be the things you see. They're not going to have all of the internal stuff like where mines are and that kind of thing. So I think I'm actually going to create a two-dimensional int array. I'm going to call this counts, which is actually going to have all the information. I'm going to put in the neighbor counts, and then also I'll have a special neighbor count where if it's, let's say, a 10, that means that that's a mine. So I'll have to keep track of that. All right, so public Minesweeper, put in the constructor. So I have my frame. I should set its size. I'm going to do 400 by 400 just to see what that looks like. Set the default close operation to jframe dot exit on close, and then set visible to true. Run that as a Java application. Sure, that'll be fine. So I'm going to have 2 pieces. I'm going to have the grid itself, and I'm going to have the reset button at the top. So I think that I'm actually going to create a container for my grid. So the container is a thing where you can set a layout inside of it and then add things into that. So frame is going to be a border layout. So I'm going to use the center and the north. Better import that. So I'm going to add reset in to border layout north. So that is that part. While I'm here, I know that I'm going to need an action listener, so I'm just going to do that real quick. so I don't forget. It's going to freak out here because it's like, what? That thing doesn't implement action listener. Sure it does. See? See? Yeah. Anyway. So down here is action performed, and I'll get to that later. But at least I'll be able to click on the reset button. Okay, so now for the grid itself. Now, just a reminder, this thing here, I said create a new button array, and that creates the array, but the buttons themselves have not been created yet. If I try and grab buttons 0, 0, I'm going to get a null pointer exception, because that thing doesn't exist yet. There's space for it, but it's not there. So, our favorite thing, the lovely for loop, let's set this to be A, and this is going to be buttons.length. For B, buttons.length. So I need to actually create the new button. So buttons A, B become a new J button. And I don't think I want to put any text on there yet, so I'm just going to create a new one. So now that actually creates it within the thing. I need to add it to my grid. Oh, my grid. I should set that up first. I should set the layout to be a new grid layout, which is going to be 20 by 20. There we go. So now my container is that kind of layout. And so now I'm going to add AB. By the way, I'm also going to add an action listener for this now because I don't want to forget that. So now they're also going to have button listeners. Finally, once I'm done with this, I should add this to the frame. And I'm going to put it in the border layout center. Done. Look at all them buttons. How exciting. Anyway, looks like I need to make this a little bit taller, so I'm going to go ahead and make it 500 tall. That's better. So let's see, the next thing I should probably do is do something with actually creating mines. So I'm going to create a method to do this, probably void. And what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to be internally altering this counts. So first of all, I need to actually go through and set up all the mines. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I don't accidentally try and place two mines in the same place. I could pick a random X and a random Y and just say, okay, you're a mine now. But the problem is I might accidentally pick that number again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a list of all the possible X and Y values, and then pick one out of the list and remove it from the list. So I make sure that I guarantee that I have 30 new mines, none of which right over the top of each other. There are other ways to do it, but I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to create an array list. I'm going to use a little trick which will allow me to keep track of the X and Y value in a single number. So rather than having a pair, I'm going to just keep track of a new random X and a new random Y using where I'm basically going to use the hundreds and the thousands digit to keep track of X and the tens and ones digit to keep track of the Y. So list, it's a new array list of integers. And yes, indeed, it is Java util where ArrayList is. Okay, so now I need to add in all the possible scenarios for which numbers I can have. So I'm going to say x counts.length counts 0.length. By the way, this should also be 0 now that I think about it. And the reason why I do this is if for whatever reason you decided that you wanted to do a 20 by 30 grid, for example, buttons.length is not going to be consistent. Button 0 might be though. So this is the one dimension, this is the other dimension. Okay, so let's also make this y, just so I am consistent. So now I need to add into my list. I'm going to do, so x is going to be 0 through 19. And what I'm going to do is multiply that by 100 and add on y. So now, by multiplying this by 100, let's say I pick out number 1 and number 12, for example. This number will become 112. And I'll be able to do division and modulus, which is remainder, in order to get this number back when I'm done with it. Okay, so I need to do this so this will actually go through and pick out all of my different things, because it'll do all 20 in one direction, all 20 in the other direction. This loop is inside this one, so it'll do all, yikes, 400 squares. Now I need to actually pick out the particular ones I want. Because I might be resetting this thing, I think I'm going to reset my counts just in case. So when you create a new int array, it initializes everything to 0 by default. So with primitive types, it initializes everything to the default 0 value, or false if it's Boolean, or whatever the 0 character is, etc. Buttons, it initializes it to a null pointer.